Today, we are going to reveal to you everything we know, and we even got some new info just in the last few days, even though it's been a weekish since N7 Day. So this is for everybody who wants to know everything about what's going on with N7 Day and all the leaks and all the secret stuff that has come out. Where do we start?
This video that was released, almost certainly a mass relay. How do we know this? Well, number one, it says in plain wording down there at the bottom left, relay construction record. So clearly a mass relay. The architecture is also kind of a giveaway. It has those revolving rings that we saw so often from previous mass relays in other games in the series. But interesting to note here, the architecture looks distinctly human, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're getting a very human, and then we've got the coloring, which is very Cerberus.
Yes, and we'll dive into exactly how Cerberus might be involved. But you see the MR7 there on the mass relay? Well, those are Latin alphabet letters, which further inclines me to think that this is a human vessel, if you want to call it that, a human structure. Mike Gamble, the project director on Mass Effect, has previously said, because this is just a new version of that artwork, but it was released a while ago, and he previously said that this is not Mass Relay 7, but that does not correct when someone mentions, he didn't correct when someone mentioned it being just a relay that was being built. So he's just disputing the name Mass Relay 7.
Right, and up on the screen right now you can see the tweet.
He does say Shinobi's wrong in the speculation, but I think that refers to it being called Mass Relay 7.
Right.
However, in a comment under that thread, someone says, well, where is this relay that's being constructed going to? And he says, well, that is an excellent question. So
it's
not
going,
disputing that it's a relay.
Right, it's a relay, and it might be going somewhere. Like, well, I guess, well, you can parse that two different ways. Where does the relay send people to? But a relay can send people to any other relay, right?
Correct. Or if they're building a second relay, it could send them anywhere. And here's an interesting thought that I had considered after it was brought up to me by another Mass Effect content creator. This could stand for mobile relay.
Mobile relay, right. And where is it going if it's mobile, right? Like, where would you put the relay if you're able to move it around, rather than where would you send someone through the relay?
Exactly. And if you're able to move it around, can you even consider all of the mobilization ramifications this could have for a military force?
Yeah.
You can transport immense amounts of vessels in an instant if you've moved the relay, similar to like an aircraft carrier.
Right.
If you've moved it anywhere, this is a force multiplier.
Right. You keep it with the bulk of your force, and now you have a very, very effective tool.
Exactly. Then it doesn't matter how large your overall military is, because you can transport 100% of the power in 0 seconds.
That's crazy.
So an incredible force multiplier if it is a mobile relay, which Mike Gamble has not disputed. This, and another thing to keep in mind about this video that we got on N7 Day, it is official that it was considered an intercepted message, likely intercepted from the Alliance, because we see in the bottom left, SA, Systems Alliance. So this is a message intercepted likely from the Alliance, and it's followed by --314. What does that mean? So 314, as a lot of Mass Effect veteran players know, is an incredibly significant number, because it could allude to the Relay 314 incident. That's what the Turians called the First Contact War.
Right.
But if you're thinking in military terms, because this is a Systems Alliance intercept, 314 could very well be a coded protocol message, sending a message to the rest of the Alliance, hey, we have a 314 on our hands, 314 over. What could 314 allude to? It could allude to, we have first contact protocol. So maybe this means the Alliance is pretty sure they're making first contact with the new species.
Yeah. And like we've discussed before on the podcast, the mass relays are only in specific sections across the galaxy. There is a lot of uncharted space in the galaxy still.
There's a ton. I think the last that we had heard, now I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the lore says that Citadel Council space only accounts for 2% of the Milky Way.
98%. That means there could be 50 times more races out there that we've never seen.
Oh, the possibilities are endless, and we are already aware that there are species and races that are aware of council space but would prefer to not interact. And it's not that they're antagonistic or militaristic, they just don't want to be a part of it.
Right.
So first contact, new race, quite likely. I want to zoom into a different part of the picture here, because not only was a video released, but in the In7Day blog, the developers, BioWare, they released a screenshot, high quality screenshot from that video. And inside the video and the screenshot, if you zoom in to the bottom left of the relay, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbered on it. And then as well, there seems to be a spire or a metallic beam that's extending from the bottom underneath the number 4.
Right. Yeah, there's a few of these that protrude off the ship, like off the side of the ship.
As we've said, as so many people have said, this is fiction, nothing is a coincidence. So could it be that they are protruding from the 4 in an allusion to this is about Mass Effect 4?
Mass Effect 4. Why put it on that number? Why even have a number? Why even have a number system 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on a ship like this, right? You would why like that's bay number 1, 2, 3. But why? It just seems silly,
right? And if the spire wasn't there, I'd be inclined to say that this is placeholder text, right? Right. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But the spire and the metallic beam seems to be a clear needle indicating something.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a Half-Life 3 situation. They're going Mass Effect 4.
Right.
And they're going like that. Right. Because depending on your perspective and depending on if you rotate it around this thing, it could be under Mass Effect 5, under the 5 thing. It depends on your perspective, but it looks pretty clearly extending from 4. So next up, there's a ship, that a small, much smaller ship that appears to be flying toward and approaching this mass or mobile relay, whatever you want to call it. It's a relay regardless, but it seems to be approaching it, and it has that characteristic blue EZO contrail that it's leaving behind it. It seems to be a 4-engine ship. We don't know what ship it is. We do know the Normandy was a 4-engine ship. We also know the Tempest was. And we also know that this prototype-looking ship that has appeared in previous In7Day marketing material is also a 4-engine ship. So it's not exclusive, but it does appear to be an important ship because it's the only one that looks like it has that blue EZO contrail, and it's going toward the relay.
Yeah. No, it definitely has some familiarity to it, we should say.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And in that still image, of course, it's still, but in the video, you can see it approaching. And it's flying directly toward it. So I'm not sure why it is. No one knows why it is, but important nonetheless. Let's zoom into the details on the bottom left. I think this is where we get a lot of concrete, more concrete details. Number 1, who is this Subnavark Soaral Zillion Jones? That name sounds inherently both Quarian and human. Jones is quite the human name. And we've never seen a hyphenated name like this, not a cross-species hyphenated name. So I'm not quite sure what that means, but I think it definitely means that Quarians and humans are involved in the next Mass Effect, and that this person could have adopted that name through marriage. They could be an adopted child of a Quarian human parent, or it could be the Geth. Because if the Geth were going to adopt naming conventions, who would they adopt them from? And they would do it for ease of communication.
That does make sense. They're trying to be more like everybody else in order to fit in a little bit.
Exactly. And if it's a Geth to Geth communication, they'll just refer to themselves as whatever unit number they are, or whatever platform they're on.
Right.
But if they're communicating with organics, it would make sense why they adopt organic type names, perhaps unique names that no other species holds. Right. So that would make sense. Now, you also alerted me to this file name. What is the file name when you download that video? SA_intercept_Cytherium system_doc 314. Cytherium system? We've never seen that system before. I double checked all my notes from the previous episodes of the Lorecast. We've never seen the Cytherium system. I don't know what it means. Could be a brand new location. I don't see why not. But Cytherium, interestingly, is also the Latin name of the genus of otters. So first contact with otters, maybe. Yeah,
maybe this is the 314. We contacted otter people.
First contact protocol, we have engaged the space otters. Over.
Space otter. Include them with the Citadel systems immediately. We need some
grubby
space
little
otter.
paws off the Crucible.
Otters are super cute. Let's bring them on board. All right.
So you mentioned the Cerberus colors. Yes, definitely Cerberus colors. And interesting to note, I said there was a previous version of this artwork released as concept art for the next game. Now we have this newer iteration, but the background has changed. The ships surrounding the relay have changed. A lot of it has changed, except the structure itself is definitely still Cerberus colored. And there's a very real possibility of, is this after Mass Effect 3? And if it is Cerberus trying to get ahead of the ball by building back better, to quote a famous politician?
Yeah. Well, if everything's in ruins, then now it's just a race to see who can claim the most whatever, like advantageous position across the galaxy.
Of course. And we see that, in our own history all the time. Post-war reconstruction is a race. And it's often because there's a power vacuum, right? So this would make sense given what people very quickly unearthed from the cryptic audio file in the background of that video. Originally, it's very garbled, it's static, it's not exactly clear what's playing, but fans decoded that very quickly, and we have the audio here that we can play.
I can see it. How did we miss this? Exactly. The Council will be furious. Although they should know by now not to underestimate human defiance. Perhaps was the most endearing fate.
Oh boy.
Wow.
We know that voice.
So that's Liara. Again, Liara is present in Mass Effect marketing materials, so we can take from that what we will. But interesting what she says. The Council will be furious. They should know by now not to underestimate human defiance. One organization comes to mind when I think of human defiance, and that is Cerberus. Of course, I'd be inclined to think the Alliance. However, the Alliance isn't involved in whatever construction's going on down there, I don't think, because this is an Alliance intercepted message.
What if that ship is the Normandy? That's Liara on the Normandy. The Normandy just discovered this structure and is doing a flyby in order to investigate it. And she's sending out that message from the Normandy, and the gigantic craft or one of these other vessels that Cerberus runs intercepted that message on the way out.
I think that's a pretty viable theory, especially considering that the Normandy, as we know, is a prototype stealth vessel. They could capture their own heat emissions and approach something like that relatively unseen because, as Joker notes, windows are a structural weakness and not always included on enemy starships. So surely they wouldn't try to approach the vessel without looking out the windows again. Well, they've done it before and it worked. So it's quite possible. I also think it's quite possible that Liara didn't send out that message, and the Geth sounds that we hear during that clearly in Geth language that we cannot comprehend. So I think it's more than likely that the Geth intercepted that message. And as we know, the Geth love surveilling every other species in the galaxy. If they intercepted that message, it would make sense why they would share that with Alliance Command. As we know, intelligence agencies share that kind of thing all the time for cross-agency coordination. So I think it's possible the Geth were surveilling Liara. They picked up that message. They shared it. Or perhaps Liara leaked it on purpose with her being the shadow broker. So moving on, I want to hit this point really quick. There are some ships of which appear to be arcs, Andromeda-style arcs in here. They look just like them. They have the 4 spines on the background, the solar sails. They look like they could be from Andromeda, while every other ship here looks like it's from the original trilogy. And I'm just purely looking at the technology of these ships, the freighters that are apparently working on this relay. So it raises some questions of Andromeda involvement in the next game. And the dev team has purposefully said in the past, Andromeda involvement is on the table. So it's on the table. I don't know to what extent, and anyone that claims to know to what extent is probably lying to you.
Right.
So it's very interesting that they have Andromeda style arcs here, but if you're undertaking this massive construction effort like a relay, Obviously, the workers need somewhere to be, somewhere to live, somewhere to eat if they're not going to be on the planet below. And if it's post Mass Effect 3, resources are very scarce. So it would make sense to maybe put those workers who aren't on their shift into cryo on an arc, albeit a much smaller arc, because as we know, the Andromeda arcs were massive. So
right. That makes sense.
Now,
So-
there's one more detail here that if you've watched the video this far, you're going to be happy that you stuck around, okay? Because this is a kind of a big detail, and it's a detail that didn't really come out until a few days after in 7 Day. And we have an eagle-eyed Twitter user to thank for this, Zane Jace. So they said, "Do you see what I see?" And we can bring up the two images here on the screen. Basically, what we see here is a reflection. It appears that this intercepted message may have been surveillance video taken from behind a glass window, and we are seeing a reflection in there. And in the bottom left of the image, you might be able to see an N7 stripe reflected in the glass. Now, we could be looking too much into this. As one Reddit user, very hilariously told me, it was copium to suggest it. However, I don't think it is, because it's the same exact lens reflection that is apparent in the very beginning of Mass Effect 1 and the Legendary Edition. When Shepard is staring out the glass and they're talking about Shepard, it's the very opening to the game, and you see Shepard's N7 stripe reflected in the glass there. I don't think that's a coincidence. It looks exactly like it, and it's quite likely that they took that reflection, that lens flare, visual effect
process, whatever that was,
and transpose the exact same thing over top of this. I'm not sure what that means, but if you brighten the image enough, it very clearly looks like a reflection of an N7 stripe. So that doesn't
keep going. That doesn't what? Go ahead.
Doesn't necessarily mean Shepard, but could be any N7 operative. It's an indication N7 is still important.
Okay, so you're saying that, and you've said this before, nothing in fiction is coincidental because the writers are doing something very intentional. They want you to make connections. They want you to see foreshadowing. They want you to be like, okay, this is all related to a specific character or whatever. It would be silly to think that they would show, in my opinion, this, which is directly related to Shepard specifically, and say, oh no, like a few years from now when we get the game released. And then they say, oh no, it was a different N7.
It would be silly, in my opinion, but it wouldn't be the first time they've done it. If you remember marketing material from Mass Effect Andromeda, they teased the N7 a lot, only for that N7 to be revealed as Alec Ryder. So,
do you think they would do that again? Do you think?
I don't know if they would do that again.
With the feeling that the reactions everyone had to that game, as opposed to the original trilogy, the hype they're building with characters like Liara, with making it, Cerberus, it's going to be in the Nokia, these familiar references, to again go, oh, we got you, it's a different N7. Like,
right?
I don't think so.
It would kind of feel like a very unnecessary red herring for them to do that.
Right.
And I don't think that they would, because everything about this marketing material so far, even dating back to that trailer we got 2 Christmases ago, everything has seemed to center on the fact that they want to evoke these nostalgic memories, these through images that were familiar, through things that were familiar. They want to lean back into it, and from a business perspective, that might be the right way to go, right? Because whether you like Andromeda or not, it was comparatively a flop to the original trilogy.
Yeah, and it's been very heavily implied, I don't know if we have proof of this yet, that they are going to go with the destroy ending if this is a sequel, which it most likely is, and that means that Shepard might still be alive.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? I want to dissect the timeline, but I think we're going to have to do that in a separate video.
All right. So tell you what, that's what we got for this video. We're going to do another video, and if you're listening on the audio podcast, this will be after the mid-break, but coming up next, check out the next video. It's about everything that we know and what is confirmed. So not just N7 Day stuff, everything we know so far. So we're going to sum it all up for you. Don't go anywhere.